one of the things that makes me actually hopeful is like teenage and young men, and I live with some, my children, and I have met some at book events, and they're they're just laughing at it too. I mean, these guys see totally through it, and there was a study that came out that said that something like, majority of Gen Z men think that feminism has been a negative for society. Now, the men are here, the women love it, but the young men see through it because they're around this. They're meeting these girls in college, and they're like, what is wrong with these? What is wrong with these wenches? Like they're gone.
All right. Well, you've got a lot of encomia, which is to say blurbs from people like Tucker Carlson. You've struck a nerve. What was the process for you? Because we have enough time. What was this process for you? Where did you grow up, and what was your faith or political journey such that you saw yourself changing over time?
Yeah, I mean, I never expected to be in this position. I never dreamed that I would be, a religious person. I would have a large family, that I would be happily married. Those were not things I aspired to. I was raised in the west side of Los Angeles. I was like a coastal elitist, private school, university. My parents actually were like Reagan Republicans, but I rejected them. I kind of rebelled against their ideas. They were lame. And I spent my 20s with my friends just sort of having fun. Our goal was to have, to avoid pregnancy, to avoid marriage. Like that was something that old people did, We wanted to, live the Sex and the City lifestyle. We didn't realize how incredibly destructive, shallow, and vapid that is.
Not that there's anything wrong with vapid. Hey, if you aspire to be vapid, we're cool. We're not judging you for being vapid and shallow.
That's fine.
All right. So, but that was where you were in your 20s. That's where you were in your 20s. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I became a political conservative really overnight on 9/11. When I saw, American college kids burning the American flag, my inner patriot kind of was awakened literally that day. And I was like, wait, oh, what? That's so weird. I thought we were all on the same team. I didn't realize what I was sort of apolitical, and so I became more conservative politically, but it was really meeting my husband that made me more of a, open to socially conservative ideas. But he was actually the first person I ever met that I was ever even in a room with who was pro-life, who was on the right. I never even met anyone like that in my life. And I liked him. Okay. And we started dating, and, we were like, I ended up marrying him. And so, what could I say? He kind of in the process of wooing me, we would have these great debates, and he's a smart guy. And I realized oh man, I've been thinking about these things all wrong. And so I became really, I became pro-life. And then we got married, had kids. And then once I started having kids, I realized, really profoundly what the meaning of life was,
But isn't that interesting? Because I say this to people. I mean, when we had our daughter, it is, at least for us, it's like going from black and white to color. You're like, what the heck? I was living in another dimension. And then suddenly everything, it really is an extraordinary thing. And you realize that, because God created us for this. This doesn't mean everyone has to have kids, but the point is, the reason you have a womb and I don't, the reason I feel like God created me to be a father, it's because literally God did create us to do these things, and it is beautiful. And we've been living under this narrative, this kind of secular, bloodless, the vapid narrative, that, to use your adjective, for so long that we can get fooled. But somehow, by God's grace, you were awakened at some point. There were these triggers, and one of them was meeting a wonderful man whom you married. So this journey for you. When did faith and God, the Bible, when did that enter the equation for you? Because there are a lot of people that would say, I believe in the flag, or I care about America, but they wouldn't go that far.
Yeah. I mean, that was the sort of the final phase in me becoming, a domestic extremist. My parents were hardcore secular atheists. Their ancestors had come to America and chucked all religion to the trash. And so I was raised to think that anyone who believed in God, they were just stupid. That's the flyover people. We're smarter than that. And I mean, we had Christmas, but we didn't have I never set foot in any kind of church or any religious, building ever. And then our first pregnancy, unfortunately, ended in a miscarriage. I don't want to bring anybody down. It was like I was about 3 months along, and we were just totally unprepared. We were like lambs to the slaughter. And so it was just like this horrible moment with the ultrasound, no heartbeat. Many people have experienced these things. I had never even heard that this could happen. I was so innocent. And it was so traumatic. And my husband the next day said to me, well, honey, I'm going to convert to Catholicism because I can't deal with this. And I was like, okay, that's
now. Well, wait a second. So why did he feel that he needed to convert to Catholicism rather than just say that was he already some kind of Christian? I mean, he had to be. You don't just convert.
Yeah, I mean, he actually had been baptized as a baby, but then that was it. His parents had kind of fallen away immediately. So he, for some reason, that just triggered in him like this need to go back. He had felt called to go back. So, I'm nice. I wasn't going to stop him. That's not my job. And so I was like, great, go ahead, live your life, like whatever floats your boat. But really it was the process of going through it with him and we started going to mass. And like very slowly over time, it kind of wore down my my hard shell of cynicism and anti-religion.
Peachy Keenan, you've written this terrific book called Domestic Extremist, A Practical Guide to Winning the Culture War. There's a lot of fun in it because we're talking about serious things, but it's important to have fun as we talk about the possible end of civilization. The first part of the book says there's a quiz. Are you a domestic extremist? And what you talk about in here, lately I've been talking a lot about reality. God created reality, and you cannot kick against the goads. When you're born as a woman or you're born as a man or whatever, there's this reality. There's this biological reality. There's this physical reality. And a big part of your narrative has to do with realizing that the house always wins. The reality and who I am is who I am. And why have I pushed against it? Right.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like all of us, or on the left, women and men have been kind of told that they can change, they can be someone else, they can escape, their kind of their embodiment as a man or as a woman, and kind of tinker with themselves. Like Mary Harrington calls it, like the meat Lego strategy. You can just add pieces, take away pieces. And yeah, the book is just like, these are not difficult concepts. I didn't go out and discover new ideas. These are very simple things, but they become taboo to say this. Like what you just said, you're not allowed to say that anymore. That a man is a man, a woman is a woman. That's it. It's immutable. I mean, that's illegal.
Yeah, of course. I was only kidding. Come on. No, but seriously, I never, for 4 decades, I didn't watch The Life of Brian, Monty Python's Life of Brian. And finally, last night, my wife and I sat down and watched it. And it's not like a great film. There are great moments in it. But recently, it's been in the news because there's a moment where, John Cleese is in a conversation with, I always forget which one it is, Terry Jones, I can't remember, but who says that, I'd like to be a woman. I want you to call me Loretta. And they're mocking it like that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So what was hilarity then has now become not only something you can't say, but they've tried to cancel this film, The Life of Brian. And so I think that people who are on the side of common sense, I mean, John Cleese is a left-wing atheist, but he and people like that are getting outraged. Comedians are being outraged because they say this is just ridiculous. We know what's what. We crack jokes. But that's kind of where we are. And that's why I feel I'm hopeful that people are beginning to see through this. Obviously, you've written a whole book about it.
Yeah, I think it's really funny that what's happened to comedy. You're not allowed to make jokes. How many gender studies professors does it take to screw in a light bulb? That's not funny. You're not allowed to poke fun at any of these people because the minute you can land a good joke, the whole thing crumbles. It's a house of cards. They know it is. But they're too easy to mock. I mean, it's gotten to the point where I'm looking at these people that they're presenting to us as these kind of paragons of virtue, like transgender women or whatever. And these are not attractive icons. These are not people anyone wants to aspire to look like or be. They seem fairly unpleasant. They seem fairly unhappy. There's nothing about this life that's appealing. And so they need to kind of protect it all with this sort of, like build these defenses against it. And that means like going after comedians. And I just think that's a losing strategy for them. So I honestly like let them try to cancel comedy because they're going to lose.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that, people that wouldn't share our faith or our political ideology are nonetheless speaking out against this. Dave Chappelle, most famously, they're just saying, "I'm just not going to have this. This is ridiculous." But there are a lot of comedians that are speaking out against this because I really think that you can't, a lie can only succeed for so long. I mean, the Soviet Union was able to, stay there for 70 years, but I never thought it would go away in my lifetime. I never thought Roe v. Wade would go away. But the fact is, like I said, the House always wins. At the end of the day, you cannot prop up a lie forever. And that's part of what is happening right now with the extremism of the transgender. I mean, I don't want to think about like razor stubble when I'm looking at a beer or drinking a beer. I don't want to think about these things. And they've just decided to push it too far. Pride Month is just the most dramatic example of the lunacy. I mean, did you ever think you'd see anything this insane?
I mean, when did it go from Pride Day to Pride Month also? Like that happened, I don't know, with maybe like with the Floyd stuff like that, just suddenly it's always Pride. I mean, they're making blunder after blunder of trying to promote these people as our new stars, our new influencers. And honestly, kids, like Gen Z kids, are not having it. They think it's funny, especially Gen Z boys. One of the things that makes me actually hopeful is like teenage and young men, and I live with some, my children, and I have met some at book events. And they're they're just laughing at it too. I mean, these guys see totally through it. And there was a study that came out that said that something like, majority of Gen Z men think that feminism has been a negative for society. Now, the men are here, the women love it, but the young men see through it because they're around this. They're meeting these girls in college, and they're like, "What is wrong with these? What is wrong with these wenches?" Like they're gone. So I think that as they say, speaking truth to power is scary. It's hard, but we have to just put it out there, come what may.
Well, we're glad you're putting it out there. This is a book that it needed to happen. Domestic Extremist, A Practical Guide to Winning the Culture War. Obviously, it's fun, but it's also it's reality-based. You have a chapter in the book, chapter 16 says, have more than 2 kids. I love that idea. Talk about that.
Yeah, it's so funny. When I lived, among the libs in Los Angeles, I couldn't help but observe that every single couple I knew had 2 kids, not fewer, not more. And when I had 3, it was like this shocking event. Someone saw me pregnant with my 3rd kid and was like, "Are you pregnant again? What are you, some kind of Mormon?" It was like, it like blew their minds that you would break the seal of 2 kids, okay? Because you can't fit 3 car seats in the back of a Range Rover. Like, what are you, crazy? And then I kept going after that. And so that seemed to be like the real dividing line, having 3. So, I would love everyone to have 4 kids. But I feel like saying, if you have 2, great. If you could have another, have the 3rd. If you're thinking about it, go for it. So many people reach out to me and they say, "Oh, we wanted another, but we didn't do it, and I regret it." I get these messages all the time. I wish I had this. So, I mean, one of my hopes is with the book, maybe someone will read it and decide to go for it, slip into something more comfortable.
I think
you can start tonight.
I actually have this theory that the more kids you have on some level, the easier it gets because you create a family culture. And the family culture means that the kids help to raise each other. And I honestly think that that's true. Now, the last chapter of your book is Saving the Planet One Family at a Time. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think that we have to save the planet, save the country, save our civilization. Everything seems to be, like, as you said in the opening, crumbling around our eyes. And the way to do that is by getting really basic, getting really granular, and convincing people or encouraging people to say rescue themselves from the culture, withdraw themselves from, the fire hose of mainstream woke, indoctrination that we're getting, and kind of like build your own little fiefdom, build your own little dynasty. And that's really what I mean, one at a time. It has to come kind of from the bottom up, the winning the culture war.
Well, I think there's no doubt that that's true, but I also think we're in such a pitched battle within the culture war that we do have to understand, at least this is what I keep saying, is that every one of us has to fight. This is very serious. Yeah. This is for civilization. Right. This is for all the marbles. And the forces on the other side, many of them are genuinely evil. You begin to see there's a level of madness that's not explained by simple political differences or ideological differences, that there's something crazy. When the LA Dodgers in your neck of the woods would honor a group that is satanic, there's no other word, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. It is satanic. They sexually mock the crucifixion. And the LA Dodgers, unbelievably stupid that they could possibly be. Like, you can imagine who's managing this like multi-million dollar corporation, the LA Dodgers, that they would honor those people. And as you probably know, the day after they honored this group of monsters, creeps, they suffered their worst loss on home turf in 125 years, 15-0 to the Giants. Unbelievable. I don't know that God expresses himself through baseball games, but why not? It's just, anyway, I just want to say thank you to you, for telling your story and for writing this book and for putting a happy face on what's a really serious, important thing. The book is Domestic Extremist. My guest has been Peachy Keenan. Peachy, we'll have you back. Just a joy to have you. Thank you so much.
This is so fun. Thank you so much, Eric. Appreciate it.